Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that God never needs a crowd to make history? He doesn't need an army to shift nations. He doesn't need a committee to break chains. God always starts with one man, one woman, one voice, one seed, one moment of faith. When he wanted to save a dying world, he didn't send 1,000 prophets. He sent one son. When he wanted to preserve life in a flood, he didn't gather 1 million people. He found one righteous man named Noah. And let me tell you today, you might be the one he's starting with. You don't need a crowd to be chosen. You don't need a stage to be anointed. You don't need permission to walk in purpose, because God always starts with one. And if he starts with one, then you, my friend, are more than enough. When God moves, he does not look for a crowd. He looks for one. One man, one woman, one heart that is willing to believe. All throughout history, every great move of God, every transformation, every shift, every breakthrough, it always started with just one. Think about it. When darkness covered the earth, when corruption filled the hearts of men and judgment was on the horizon, God didn't need an entire nation to be righteous. He only needed one. He looked and found Noah, just one man. One man who was willing to listen. One man who was willing to build when there was no rain, to obey when there was no evidence, to trust when there was no sign. And because of that one man's obedience, an entire family was saved, and the course of humanity was preserved. When the world was entrenched in idolatry, when men worshiped the creation instead of the Creator, when people bowed to stone and wood instead of truth and power, God did not search for 1,000 voices to declare his name. He didn't raise an army of prophets. He didn't need a royal council or a committee. He looked for one, and he found Abraham, a single man in a family of idol worshipers, a man with no special status, no great background, no kingdom to rule. And yet, because of one man's faith, God made a covenant that still stands today. One man walked out of his homeland with nothing but a promise. And from him came nations. God always starts with one. When an entire empire enslaved and oppressed his people, when Pharaoh held them captive with no way of escape, God didn't need a rebellion. He didn't need thousands of warriors or swords or strategies. He needed one. One man standing in the wilderness, minding his own business, keeping sheep. And when Moses turned aside to see the fire in the bush, that was the moment history changed. One man standing on holy ground was enough for God to say, now is the time. One voice standing before Pharaoh saying, let my people go, was enough to break chains. Do you see the pattern? Every deliverance, every miracle, every restoration, every act of divine intervention, it all started with just one. One woman named Esther who stood before a king. One shepherd boy named David who dared to face a giant. One young virgin named Mary who said, let it be unto me. And if God could use one back then, why do you think he needs more now? Why do you think he's waiting on a crowd when he has you? You don't have to be surrounded by an army. You don't need the approval of men. You don't need qualifications that others recognize. You just need to be the one who says yes. Because when God looks at a situation that needs change, he doesn't say, where are the 1,000? He says, where is the one? That's why you can't ignore the fire inside you. That's why you can't silence the calling in your spirit. That's why you can't wait for someone else to step up, because you are the one God is looking at right now. If you've ever felt small, if you've ever felt insignificant, if you've ever wondered if your life even matters, let me tell you, it does. Because it only takes one to shift an atmosphere, one to break a generational curse, one to change a bloodline, one to transform a community, one to bring revival. And you might be that one. God is not waiting for an army. He's waiting for you. One seed. One tiny, insignificant, easily overlooked seed. If you were to hold it in your hand, you might think it's nothing. It doesn't look like much. It doesn't seem powerful. It doesn't seem like it holds anything of value. But inside that one seed is a forest waiting to be released. Inside that one seed is an entire harvest that has yet to come forth. Inside that one seed is the power to multiply beyond measure, to feed generations, to bring forth life where there was none. When God moves, he moves through the principle of the seed. He doesn't give an entire harvest all at once. He gives one seed and watches what you do with it. And that is the problem most people face. They despise the seed. They look at it and say, this isn't enough. They look at their small beginnings and think, I'll never get there. They look at the little they have and feel like it will never amount to anything. But what they fail to understand is that everything great begins as a seed. Think about it. When God wanted to bless the nations, he didn't send a kingdom all at once. He started with one man named Abraham, and he gave him a promise. I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky. But how did that promise begin? With one son, just one, a single child named Isaac. That was the seed, and from that seed came an entire nation. From that seed came kings, came prophets, came warriors, came the chosen lineage that would lead to the greatest blessing the world has ever known. But what if Abraham had looked at Isaac and said, this isn't enough? What if he had despised the small beginnings? What if he had given up before the harvest could come forth? You see, the seed is never the full picture. It is just the beginning. And this is where many people miss it. They pray for abundance, but when God gives them a seed, they don't recognize it. They ask for a great calling, but when God places a small opportunity before them, they dismiss it. They desire a massive breakthrough, but when God gives them one step of obedience, they hesitate. Everything great begins as a seed. When a farmer plants a seed, he doesn't expect it to become a tree overnight. He knows there's a process. He knows that first, the seed must break underground, unseen and unnoticed. He knows that for a while, it will seem like nothing is happening. He knows there will be days of watering, days of waiting, days of trusting that the process is working even though he cannot see it. But if he remains faithful, if he does not uproot what he planted, if he does not grow weary in the waiting, then the harvest will surely come. The problem is that most people give up before their seed has time to grow. They plant, but they don't wait. They believe, but they don't endure. They start, but they don't finish. And they walk away just before the breakthrough is about to sprout. When a woman carries a child, she doesn't expect to give birth the day after conception. She knows there is a process. She knows that inside her womb, though she cannot see it, life is forming. And if she waits, if she nurtures what has been placed inside her, in due time she will hold the promise in her hands. So why do we struggle with this in our faith? Why do we expect things to happen instantly? Why do we doubt when it seems like nothing is happening? Why do we despise the process when the process is what brings the promise to completion? God has placed a seed inside of you. It may not look like much right now. It may not seem like it holds anything great. But if you nurture it, if you remain faithful, if you do not give up, then that seed will bring forth a harvest beyond what you could have imagined. One small act of faith can multiply. One prayer can open doors you never expected. One moment of obedience can shift the course of your entire life. Look at the loaves and fish. Thousands were hungry, and the disciples looked at what they had and said, this isn't enough. But when placed in the hands of the one who multiplies, that small offering fed an entire multitude. Because the seed always produces a harvest when placed in the right hands. So don't despise the little you have. Don't overlook what seems small. Don't doubt what God has placed inside you just because it doesn't look like much right now. A single seed carries a future inside of it, and what you do with it will determine what it becomes. If you remain faithful with the seed, you will reap the harvest. There are moments in life when everything hinges on a single decision. One moment of courage, one act of faith, one step of obedience. A person can stand at the edge of their destiny, looking out at all the possibilities, and in that instant, the choice they make can change everything. Throughout history, the greatest transformations didn't come from comfort. They didn't come from waiting for ideal conditions. They came from one yes. One moment where a person chose to step into the unknown, to trust beyond what they could see, to move forward even when fear whispered in their ears. Imagine if Noah had hesitated when God told him to build the ark. Imagine if he had questioned, why should I build a boat when there's no rain? Why should I put in all this effort when people will mock me? He could have refused. He could have ignored the calling, but instead he said yes. And that yes became the vessel that saved humanity. Think of Abraham living in a land of comfort, surrounded by familiarity. When he was called to leave his home, his family, everything he had ever known, he had no map, no clear destination, no evidence that things would turn out the way he hoped. But when the command came, he didn't argue. And he didn't wait for a second confirmation. He didn't demand all the details in advance. He just said yes. And that yes birthed nations. One yes can change everything. It doesn't always make sense. It doesn't always come with a blueprint. It rarely happens when you feel ready. But when that moment comes, when the opportunity for obedience is laid before you, what you do next determines everything. Moses stood before a burning bush, hearing a call that seemed far beyond him. He was a man with a past, a man with doubts, a man who didn't believe he had what it took. And yet in that moment, when he could have run, when he could have resisted, he made a choice. He said yes. And that yes was the beginning of a deliverance that would shake the foundations of an empire. The greatest stories are written in the moments when people choose to say yes, even when fear tells them to say no. David was just a young shepherd boy when he stood before a giant. No armor, no sword, no experience in war. All he had was a sling, 5 smooth stones, and the confidence that he was not alone. He could have turned back like the rest. He could have let fear dictate his actions, but instead, he ran toward the battle. He didn't wait for another warrior to step up. He didn't ask for more time to prepare. He saw the moment before him and he said yes to the fight. One yes can break chains. Esther had a choice. She could remain silent and protect herself, or she could risk everything to speak up for her people. It wasn't an easy decision. She knew that stepping before the king could cost her life, but she also knew that staying silent could cost even more. And so in a moment of courage, in a moment where destiny hung in the balance, she uttered the words that sealed her fate. If I perish, I perish. That yes saved an entire nation. Time and time again, history has shown that destiny doesn't wait for the perfect conditions. It doesn't wait for all the answers. It doesn't wait for a person to feel qualified. It simply presents an opportunity and asks, will you say yes? Even in the smallest moments, a yes can open doors that seemed impossible. One yes to a new opportunity. One yes to stepping out in faith. One yes to walking away from what is comfortable and into what is calling you. Most people don't miss their purpose because they don't have potential. They miss it because they hesitate, because they let fear dictate their response, because they wait for absolute certainty when faith requires stepping out before the answer is clear. What if Peter had never stepped out of the boat? What if he had stayed seated, watching the waves, doubting the call? He would have missed his miracle. He would have never known what it was like to walk on water. What if the woman with the issue of blood had decided it wasn't worth the risk? What if she had thought, I've suffered too long. There's no point in trying anymore. She would have stayed in her suffering, but she didn't let fear keep her back. She pressed forward, she reached out, and her yes to that moment brought her healing. One yes can unlock miracles. Most people are waiting for a sign, but the truth is, the opportunity is already before them. It may not look the way they expected. It may not come in the package they imagined, but if they have the courage to respond, if they have the faith to move, if they have the willingness to trust, even when the path is unclear, then that one yes will change everything. Destiny is knocking, purpose is calling, the moment is now. Will you say yes? There is something powerful about feeling small. There is something significant about standing in the shadow of giants, looking at the mountains before you and realizing that in the grand scheme of things, you are just one person, one voice, one individual in a world full of billions. It is in these moments that doubt begins to whisper, who am I? What difference can I make? How can someone as small as me be used for something great? But here's the truth. God has never needed numbers to accomplish his will. He has never required a crowd to bring about change. He has always worked through the one. The world has its way of measuring importance. It celebrates the biggest, the loudest, the strongest. It measures influence by followers, by wealth, by fame, but that is not how real impact is made. Real impact does not come from those who have everything. It comes from those who are willing. It comes from those who say, I may not have much, but I'll use what I have. It comes from those who refuse to let their size determine their significance. A shepherd boy was the youngest of his brothers, left in the fields to tend sheep while others went off to battle. No one thought much of him. No one expected anything great from him. But when the time came, when an entire army trembled before the might of a giant, it wasn't the strongest soldier who stepped forward. It was the boy. A boy with no armor, no title, no royal blood. A boy who should have been overlooked, but he was the one who had faith. He was the one who saw what others could not. And with one stone, with one moment of courage, the giant fell. One person, one act of faith, one decision to believe. History is filled with those who seem small, but carried something far greater inside of them. A fisherman who thought he was unworthy was given the keys to a kingdom. A young girl from an insignificant town carried the greatest gift the world would ever know. A persecutor of the faithful became the voice that would spread truth to the nations. Time and time again, those who seemed to be the least were chosen to do the greatest things, because it is never about what you have, it is about what you are willing to do. The moment you stop believing that you are too small is the moment things begin to change. The moment you stop looking at what you lack and start looking at what is possible, you begin to see how much you already have. The moment you decide that fear will not control you, that doubt will not silence you, that insecurity will not stop you, that is the moment everything shifts. One person can change the course of history. One voice can speak truth in the midst of deception. One light can break through the deepest darkness. If you have ever felt small, if you have ever believed that your presence does not matter, if you have ever wondered if your existence has purpose, let me tell you right now, it does. Because you are the one. You are the one that can make a difference in your family. You are the one that can break the cycles that have held generations captive. You are the one that can rise up and say, it ends with me. You are the one that can bring change to your community, to your workplace, to your school, to the world around you. You don't need to wait for permission. You don't need to wait for someone else to confirm what you already know deep inside. You don't need to compare yourself to those who seem bigger, seem stronger, seem more qualified, because you are already enough. If the creator of the universe looked at you and saw someone worthy of life, someone worth creating, someone worth calling, then who are you to doubt your purpose? If everything in existence was formed with intention, with precision, with design, then do you really think that you are an accident? Do you really think you were placed here without reason? There is a purpose in your breath. There is a calling in your steps. There is power in your presence. And if you have been waiting for a sign, this is it. You are not too small. You are not too weak. You are not too insignificant. You are the one. There is a moment in every person's life when they stand at a crossroads where they face a choice that will determine the course of their future. It may not come with flashing lights or a loud announcement. It may not feel like a grand, life-changing decision at first. But every great journey begins with one step. Every great move starts with one action, and every great transformation is set in motion by one decision to move forward instead of staying where it is comfortable. There are those who sit and wait for everything to align before they move. They wait for the perfect timing, the perfect opportunity, the perfect situation, but nothing great has ever been built on waiting alone. The world does not change because people sit in hesitation. It changes when someone, even just one person, dares to believe that moving forward is worth the risk. It is easy to look at those who have done great things and assume they had everything in place before they started. It is easy to believe that they had all the answers, all the resources, all the clarity before they took their first step. But that is not the way it works. No one starts with everything. No one begins fully equipped. No one embarks on the path already knowing every turn they will take. They simply begin. The difference between those who succeed and those who remain stuck is not their background, not their intelligence, not their resources. It is their willingness to begin even when they do not feel ready. It is their decision to step forward even when they are afraid. It is their understanding that hesitation is the enemy of progress, and that movement, even uncertain, even hesitant, even slow, is better than standing still. How many times have opportunities been lost because of hesitation? How many moments have been wasted waiting for a better time? How many dreams have died because the person who carried them was too afraid to take the first step? The greatest tragedies are not the failures of those who tried and fell. The greatest tragedies are the unrealized dreams, the unspoken words, the undone actions of those who never moved at all. A seed that is never planted will never grow. A door that is never knocked on will never open. A journey that is never started will never be completed. Everything you see around you, the buildings, the businesses, the inventions, the stories, the legacies, they all began with one person who decided to start. They all began with someone who, despite their doubts, despite their fears, despite their uncertainty, chose to move forward anyway. And now the question comes to you. What have you been waiting to start? What have you been holding back from? What dream, what goal, what calling has been sitting inside of you, waiting for you to say yes? There will never be a perfect time. There will never be a moment when you feel completely prepared. But what if the moment to begin is now? What if the first step is the only thing standing between you and the life you were meant to live? What if the decision to start today, right now, is the difference between staying the same and stepping into something greater? The future does not belong to those who wait. It belongs to those who take action. It belongs to those who say, I may not have all the answers, but I will not let that stop me. It belongs to those who refuse to let fear paralyze them, who refuse to let uncertainty hold them back, who refuse to let the fear of failure be greater than the desire to move forward. You do not need to have everything figured out. You do not need to have all the resources. You do not need to know the entire plan. You just need to start, because once you begin, momentum builds. Once you take one step, the next becomes clearer. Once you start moving, the path begins to reveal itself. But you will never see what is possible if you do not begin. You will never know what could have been if you never take that first step. You will never experience the fullness of what is waiting for you if you remain stuck in hesitation. So do not let fear win. Do not let doubt hold you back. Do not let another day pass without stepping forward, because the greatest victories, the greatest breakthroughs, the greatest transformations all start with one moment of courage, and that moment is now. The power of vision is not just in seeing what is, but in seeing what could be. The difference between those who change the world and those who remain trapped in the ordinary is not always skill, resources, or status. It is the ability to see beyond the present and into the possibility of the future. It is the ability to stand in a barren field and see a harvest. It is the ability to look at ruins and see a city rebuilt. It is the ability to look at themselves not as they are today, but as they could become. But the challenge is this: most people are blind to their own potential. They live their lives trapped in what they see, never realizing that what they see is only a small part of what is possible. They base their expectations on their past. They base their beliefs on their surroundings. They limit themselves because they do not recognize that vision is more powerful than sight. There is a reason why those who accomplish great things often start in places where nothing seems possible. They are the ones who look at the same situation as everyone else, but instead of seeing limitations, they see opportunities. They are the ones who stand in the middle of lack but see abundance. They are the ones who face impossibilities and say, I will not accept this as my final reality. The truth is, every great thing that has ever been accomplished started with someone who saw it before it became real. Before a building is built, it is seen in the mind of an architect. Before a book is written, it is seen in the imagination of the writer. Before a business is started, it is seen in the vision of an entrepreneur. Everything that exists today once existed only as an idea in the mind of someone who refused to let their current circumstances define what was possible. The greatest challenge is not external. The greatest battle is not against opposition from the outside. It is against the limitations placed on the inside. When a person truly begins to see, not with their eyes, but with their faith, their belief, their expectation, then nothing is impossible for them. But vision is not enough. Seeing the possibility is only the beginning. What separates those who live their vision from those who only dream is action. Most people see a better future but never move toward it. They see what they could do, but they never begin. They have moments of inspiration, moments of clarity, moments when they catch a glimpse of what could be, but then they allow fear, doubt, or comfort to pull them back into the ordinary. Vision must be followed by movement. It does not matter if the path is unclear. It does not matter if the resources are not yet there. It does not matter if no one else believes in it. What matters is that the one who carries the vision moves forward anyway. The greatest achievements in history came from those who refused to let their present define their future. They saw something greater, something bigger, something beyond what was immediately in front of them, and they took steps toward it. When others laughed, they kept moving. When others doubted, they kept believing. When others gave up, they pressed forward. Because vision is not just about seeing, it is about becoming. When you allow yourself to see beyond what is, you begin to change. You begin to think differently, act differently, make decisions differently. You begin to operate not based on where you are, but based on where you are going, and that is where transformation happens. If you have ever felt stuck, if you have ever felt like you were made for more but could not see how to get there, if you have ever felt the pull of something greater but were unsure of how to step into it, the answer is simple: see beyond where you are. Do not let the present define your future. Do not let circumstances dictate what is possible. Do not let past failures convince you that success is out of reach, because everything that exists today once seemed impossible to someone. Everything that has been built, created, achieved, or discovered was once just a vision in someone's mind. And if it was possible for them, it is possible for you. You have the ability to see beyond where you are. You have the power to imagine a future greater than your present. You have the capacity to move forward even when you do not yet see the full path. Do not be like those who only dream but never act. Do not be like those who see potential but never pursue it. Be among those who see, believe, and move, because those are the ones who change the world. There is a moment in every person's life when they are faced with an opportunity to do something significant, to step into something greater, to make a decision that could alter the course of their life forever. But in that moment, something happens. A voice rises up, a whisper in the back of their mind that says, "You are not enough." It is the voice that tells them they are not qualified. It is the voice that reminds them of every mistake they have ever made, every weakness they have, every limitation they carry. It is the voice that says, "You are not strong enough. You are not smart enough. You are not talented enough. You are not worthy enough." And too many people believe that voice. Too many people stop in their tracks, turn around, and walk away from their destiny, not because they lack ability, not because they lack opportunity, but because they believe the lie that they are not enough. But let me tell you something, that voice is a lie. That voice is meant to keep you stuck. That voice is meant to keep you small. That voice is meant to stop you from stepping into the fullness of who you were created to be. Because the truth is, you are already enough. The world tries to tell people that their worth is based on their achievements. that their value is determined by how much money they have, how much success they gain, how much recognition they receive. But real worth, real significance, real power does not come from external things. It does not come from wealth, status, or applause. It comes from within. It comes from knowing who you are. It comes from understanding that you were created with purpose, that you were designed with intention, that you were placed here for a reason. But the problem is too many people live their lives measuring themselves against others. They look at what others have, what others have done, what others have achieved, and they begin to believe that they don't measure up. They begin to think that because they are not where someone else is, they are somehow behind. Comparison is a thief. It steals joy. It steals confidence. It steals purpose. Because when a person spends their life comparing themselves to someone else, they are measuring their worth by the wrong standard. They are looking at someone else's journey and forgetting that their own journey is unique, their own purpose is specific, their own path is different. You were not created to be a copy of someone else. You were not designed to live someone else's life. You were not meant to fit into someone else's mold. You were created to be you, with your gifts, your talents, your abilities, your voice, with your experiences, your story, your perspective, your passion, and you are enough. You don't have to wait until you have more. You don't have to wait until you feel ready, because readiness is a myth. Nobody ever truly feels ready for the things that will change their life. Nobody ever feels fully prepared for the opportunities that stretch them, challenge them, and push them to grow. But the difference between those who step into greatness and those who stay stuck is not that one was more prepared than the other. It is simply that one made the decision to move forward anyway. Because courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite fear. Confidence is not the absence of doubt. It is the willingness to act even when doubt is present. And greatness is not something reserved for the most talented, the most educated, the most connected. It is available to anyone who is willing to believe that they are already enough to start. Think about the people who have changed the world. The inventors, the leaders, the visionaries, the pioneers. Every single one of them started as just one person. They did not begin as experts. They did not start with all the answers. They were not always confident, always strong, always sure. But what set them apart was their belief that they were enough to begin. And that same truth applies to you. You are enough to begin. You are enough to step forward. You are enough to pursue the dream that has been placed inside of you. Do not let insecurity hold you back. Do not let doubt keep you from stepping into the opportunities in front of you. Do not waste another day believing the lie that you need to be more, have more, do more before you can start. Because you are already enough. And the moment you believe that, the moment you own that truth, the moment you walk in that confidence, the moment you stop waiting for permission from the world and start moving in your purpose, that is the moment everything changes. That is the moment you begin to step into the life you were meant to live. There is something about the way people limit themselves that is so heartbreaking. They live their lives in cages made of invisible bars, never realizing that the only thing keeping them trapped is their own mindset. They convince themselves that their past disqualifies them, that their weaknesses make them unworthy, that their mistakes have locked them out of the future they were meant to have. They stand at the edge of something great, something extraordinary, something life-changing, but they hold back. They hesitate. They convince themselves that they are not the kind of person who can do something significant. They look at others and think, they were meant for greatness, but not me. And they spend their lives stuck, not because they lack opportunity, not because they lack talent, but because they lack belief in themselves. But here's the truth. The only thing stopping you from becoming who you were meant to be is the belief that you are not capable of becoming that person. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are not your failures. Every single person who has ever done something great has a past. Every person who has ever stepped into their purpose has made mistakes. Every person who has ever accomplished something that mattered has had to overcome failures, doubts, fears, and insecurities. The difference between those who rise and those who stay stuck is not that one is perfect and the other is flawed. It is simply that one refuses to let their past define them. Because the past is a teacher, not a prison. The past is supposed to equip you, not confine you. The past is meant to be a foundation for growth, not a chain that keeps you from moving forward. But so many people carry their past like a weight. They let it define them. They let it limit them. They let it convince them that they are not worthy of stepping into something greater. But the past does not have the power to define your future unless you give it that power. Your mistakes do not have the authority to tell you who you are unless you allow them to. Your failures do not have the ability to determine your destiny unless you surrender your future to them. You have a choice. You can choose to stay where you are, to let your past dictate your future, to let your mistakes convince you that you are unworthy, or you can choose to rise. You can choose to take everything you have been through, everything you have learned, everything you have overcome, and use it as fuel to step into something greater. Because every scar tells a story. Every wound that has healed is proof that you survived. Every time you fell but got back up is evidence that you are stronger than you think. And there's nothing, no failure, no mistake, no regret that is strong enough to stop you unless you choose to let it. The past is done. The past is over. The past is behind you. But what happens next, that is still unwritten. That is still waiting. That is still in your hands. And the only question that matters now is this: what will you do with it? Will you let yesterday keep you from stepping into tomorrow? Will you let old wounds hold you back from new victories? Will you allow the pain of the past to rob you of the future that is waiting for you? Or will you rise? Will you dare to believe that what is ahead of you is greater than what is behind you? Will you have the courage to let go of the weight you have been carrying and step forward into what you were meant for? Because everything can change in a moment. Everything can shift with one decision. Everything can be different when you finally choose to stop letting the past define you and start walking toward the future that was meant for you. The past does not define you. Your mistakes do not define you. Your failures do not define you. What defines you is what you do next. And right now, in this moment, you have the power to choose. You can choose to stay the same, or you can choose to rise. You can choose to carry the weight of the past, or you can choose to lay it down and step into something greater. You can choose to let yesterday keep you bound, or you can choose to step into the freedom of tomorrow. The choice is yours, and the future is waiting. There is something that separates those who step into greatness from those who remain stuck in mediocrity. It is not talent. It is not intelligence. It is not even opportunity, it is resilience. It is the ability to keep moving forward when everything in life is telling you to stop. It is the ability to take a hit and still get back up. It is the ability to go through pain, disappointment, loss, and failure and still believe that something greater is ahead. Most people do not fail because they lack potential. They do not fail because they lack ability. They fail because they quit too soon. They stop before the breakthrough comes. They give up because they let the weight of the struggle convince them that it is not worth it. But let me tell you something. If you stop now, you will never see what could have been. If you stop now, you will never experience the reward of perseverance. If you stop now, you will never know how much further you could have gone. Because life will test you, it will press you, it will shake you, it will throw obstacles in your path, not to break you, but to reveal what is inside of you. Pressure does not come to destroy, it comes to refine, it comes to strengthen, it comes to shape you into the person you were always meant to be. But the problem is, most people do not understand that. They think that struggle means they are going the wrong way. They think that difficulty means they should stop. They think that resistance means they're not meant to move forward, but nothing great has ever been built without resistance. A seed must push through the dirt before it becomes a tree. A diamond is formed through pressure before it shines. A warrior must train and endure pain before they are ready for battle. And in the same way, if you want to step into something great, you must be willing to endure the process that prepares you for it. You must be willing to face the setbacks, the failures, the disappointments, and still keep moving forward, because quitting is easy. Anyone can quit. Anyone can walk away when things get hard. Anyone can stop when they do not see immediate results. But those who achieve something great, those who build legacies, those who change the world, those who rise above the ordinary are the ones who refuse to quit. They are the ones who take every setback as a setup for a comeback. They are the ones who use every failure as fuel to keep going. They are the ones who understand that pain is temporary, but purpose is eternal. And that is why you cannot stop now. You cannot give up just because it is hard. You cannot walk away just because you feel tired. You cannot let the weight of the process cause you to abandon the promise. Because if you keep pushing, you will see the reward. If you keep pressing forward, you will see the breakthrough. If you keep going, you will reach the place that was meant for you all along. But the only way you lose is if you quit. Think about all the times you have already come close to giving up. Think about all the moments when you felt like stopping, but you chose to keep going. Think about all the times you wanted to quit, but something inside of you told you to hold on just a little longer. That was not an accident. That was not coincidence. That was proof that you were built for more. That was evidence that you were never meant to stay down. That was a sign that what is ahead of you is greater than what is behind you. So do not give up now. Do not quit in the middle of the process. Do not throw away everything you have fought for just because you feel tired. You have come too far. You have endured too much. You have survived things that should have broken you. And if you have made it this far, there is more in you than you even realize. There is more strength in you. There is more power in you. There is more resilience in you than you have ever tapped into. So instead of stopping, dig deeper. Instead of quitting, push harder. Instead of giving in to discouragement, remind yourself of why you started in the first place, because the pain you feel today is temporary, but the reward of perseverance will last forever. You will not always feel motivated. You will not always feel strong. You will not always feel like pressing forward. But resilience is not about feelings. It is about a decision. A decision to rise even when you feel like falling. A decision to press forward even when you feel like pulling back. A decision to keep going even when everything in you wants to stop. And when you make that decision over and over again, day after day, step after step, you will look back one day and realize that every moment of struggle was worth it. Every sacrifice, every tear, every sleepless night, every obstacle, it was all worth it because you refused to quit. And because of that, you will step into everything that was meant for you. It is easy to become disillusioned with the process. When you look around, when you see others achieving their goals, living their dreams, and stepping into their destinies, it can sometimes feel like you are falling behind. The gap between where you are and where you want to be seems so wide. The road ahead seems so long. The obstacles you face seem insurmountable. It's easy to look at where you are right now and think that it will never change, that you will never reach the place you are striving for. And in those moments, it's easy to question whether the struggle is worth it. It's easy to ask yourself, why keep going if I'm not where I want to be yet? But what you need to understand is that progress is not always immediately visible. Just because you can't see the results of your hard work doesn't mean that it's not having an impact. Just because things are not changing as quickly as you would like them to doesn't mean that you aren't moving forward. Think about the process of planting a seed. You place it in the ground, you water it, you nurture it, and you wait. At first, nothing happens. The seed doesn't suddenly break through the surface and bloom into a tree, but even though you can't see it, beneath the soil, something is happening. The roots are growing, the foundation is being established. It's in those moments when you see no visible change that the most significant growth is taking place. In the same way, the work you are doing, the effort you are putting in, the sacrifices you are making, they are all laying the groundwork for something bigger than you can see right now. The change is happening on the inside before it ever shows up on the outside. The seeds you are planting today are the trees you will harvest in the future. And every moment you feel like nothing is happening, that is just the soil doing its work. So don't judge your progress by how quickly things are happening or by the visible results. Judge your progress by your consistency. Judge your progress by your ability to stay committed even when things don't seem to be moving forward. It is easy to give up when you feel like nothing is changing. It's easy to quit when you feel like the dream is too far away. But you have to remember that the process is just as important as the outcome. The person you are becoming in the process, the strength you are gaining, the lessons you are learning, all of these things matter. They are shaping you into the person who is capable of handling the greatness that is coming. If everything came easily, if everything was handed to you on a silver platter, if you never had to fight for what you want, you wouldn't be prepared for the greatness that lies ahead. You would not have the resilience, the wisdom, or the character to sustain it. But because you are persevering through the struggle, because you are enduring through the hard seasons, you are becoming stronger, wiser, and more capable of handling everything that is coming your way. And I know it's hard sometimes. I know it's difficult to stay patient when things aren't happening as fast as you hoped. But remember this, delay is not denial. Just because things are not happening when you think they should doesn't mean that they won't happen. Just because you are not seeing immediate results doesn't mean that your efforts are in vain. In fact, some of the greatest breakthroughs in life happen just when you are about to give up. Some of the most significant successes come after the hardest struggles. Some of the most beautiful blessings come after the deepest trials. And your breakthrough is closer than you think. Every time you push through, every time you keep going, every time you choose not to give up, you are setting yourself up for success. The challenge is not in the struggle itself. The challenge is in not quitting in the middle of it. You are closer to your dreams than you realize. You are closer to your purpose than you understand. You are closer to the success you've been working so hard for, even though it may not seem like it right now. Do not give up just before the breakthrough. Keep pressing forward. Keep doing the work. Keep planting those seeds. Keep watering them. And eventually the fruit will come. The path may not be clear. The road may not be smooth. But remember that the greater the challenge, the greater the reward. The greater the struggle, the greater the triumph. The higher the mountain, the more rewarding the view at the top. And when you look back one day, when you see all that you have overcome, when you look at how far you have come, you will realize that it was all worth it. You will realize that every moment of doubt, every hour of struggle, every moment when you wanted to quit was simply part of the journey that prepared you for what you are about to receive. So keep going, keep working, keep believing, even when the progress is slow, even when the road is tough, even when the future seems uncertain, keep moving forward. Because one day you will look back and see that all the effort, all the persistence, all the times you didn't give up were the very things that got you to where you were meant to be. And when you reach that place, when you step into the life you have been striving for, you will realize that every single step, every single moment of waiting, every moment of struggle was worth it because it brought you to this moment. And in that moment, you will know that the journey, no matter how hard it was worth every single step.